Alright, this video, I'm going to talk about NBA records that I believe will never be broken. And I want to give a shout out to Scorpio because he's one of my subscribers. He's the one that gave me the idea to do this particular video. So, here goes. Let me give the obvious one, number one. Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, which was occurred on March 2nd, I believe, 1962 in Hershey, Pennsylvania against the New York Knicks. Fittingly. The game was unusual for the fact that not only was Wilt Chamberlain hot, he converted on 36 of 63 field goals, but Wilt, who ended up becoming a 51% career free throw shooter, made an incredible 28 out of 32 free throw attempts. I believe in that game, Wilt Chamberlain had something like 100 points and 25 rebounds. Speaking of rebounds, another record of Wilt Chamberlain's that I think is even more unbreakable is his 27.2 rebounding average during the 1960-61 NBA season. I think that's obviously not going to be broken. I think another record of his that's not going to be broken. I mean, there's actually many records of his that aren't going to be broken. And I also strongly believe that if blocks were counted during his era, I think that blocks would. I think that either he or Bill Russell would hold the record. I think probably because Wilt played more games than Russell and was a little bit more athletic. I think I would assume a little bit bigger. I would assume that Wilt Chamberlain probably will hold the record for blocks. But anyway, another record of Wilt Chamberlain's I think that will never be broken is his 55 rebounds in one game. I think he did that against the Boston Celtics, but I'm not certain about that. That's another thing, another video too, is that I'll just mention this. There's always been this myth that Bill Russell shut down Wilt Chamberlain whenever they went head-to-head, and that's not true. I think when they went head-to-head, Russell averaged about 23 points and 14 rebounds, while Wilt averaged something like 28 points and I believe 28 rebounds, 29 points and 28 rebounds, or it's something like that. I'm a little bit rusty with the numbers, but I know he pretty much almost doubled Russell's rebounding output. I think it was something like 28 points and 28 rebounds or something like that. But going on with the point of this video, I think another record that will never be broken is Scott Skiles' 30 assists in a 1990 game. I believe it was against the Denver Nuggets. Many players have gotten 20 plus assists in a game, of course, but no one has really come close to even approaching 30 assists. I think the closest that anyone's gotten recently is Rajon Rondo. I think he had something like 24 assists or 23 assists in the game a couple of years ago. Another record I think that will never be broken is AC Green's Iron Man streak of 1,192 consecutive games. He blew away the old record, which was by Randy Smith, which is 906 games. And I mean, the way the players are kind of, I think it has something to do with the fact that players are bigger. And also, I suspect many players take PEDs. Their bodies just break down earlier. And I strongly believe that this record will not be broken ever. So these are some records I think that will never be broken. Another record that I don't think will be broken is one that's currently held by Stephen Curry. Not the 402 threes in a season, because I think the way that the game's played now, all it takes is a guy to average 30 or 30 plus points and shoot a lot of threes. And, I think that's possible, that record could possibly be broken, but I assume that record is going to be held for a while because I strongly believe that Stephen Curry is going to take far less shots next season. Well, this season coming up. But the record I think that is going to be up for quite a time is Stephen Curry's consecutive three-pointers record. I looked it up. The record used to be held by Dana Barros. I remember that. Back in the 90s, he had made at least one three-pointer in 89 consecutive games. That record was subsequently broken by Kyle Korver, who held the record until last season with at least one three-pointer in 127 consecutive games. Stephen Curry eclipsed that this past season and now holds the mark of consecutive three-pointers in games. At least one three-pointer in the consecutive games now with 152. And I say counting because the way that Curry shoots the ball, I see that mark increasing for at least a few more games. One record I think that will fall, and I can't say that I think that it will never fall, is Ray Allen's career three-pointers mark of 2,973. I think that that mark will eventually fall, most likely to Stephen Curry, barring injuries, of course. But I think that record will ultimately fall because Curry is already well more than halfway to that mark. I think he's like at 1,694. So he only needs fewer than 1,300 more threes, I'm assuming. At the pace that he shoots, he's going to probably get there in about 4 or 5 more seasons, I'm assuming. But let's move on. I think another record that will never be broken is Robert Parish's 1,611 games. Now, this is a mark I thought could be broken years ago. Of course, Robert Parish, the Chief, played in 21 seasons, which is tied for the NBA record with Kevin Willis and Kevin Garnett, who recently retired. And if you include the ABA, it's also tied with Moses Malone, who played from 1974, starting with the Utah Stars and concluding his career in 1995 with the San Antonio Spurs. But what happens is that it seems like by season 16 or 17, most players, their bodies just start breaking down and they no longer can play in multiple contests consecutively, and they start missing long stretches of games, which is what happened to, of course, Kevin Garnett and Kevin Willis and some of these other guys, Moses Malone. But Robert Parish was able to play in a lot of games. Even this last year when he was 43 years old, he still appeared in 43 contests, albeit in limited minutes. So I strongly believe that 1,611 games he's played in will never be broken. Another record that I think won't be broken, and Golden State Warriors will rejoice at this one, is the 73 wins that they achieved in 2015-16. I just think that the odds of that being broken are very, very low. I don't see that being broken. And this team is not going to break that record just because just the law of averages. There's no way they're not going to win. There's no way that they're not going to lose more than 8 contests. I don't buy that. Matter of fact, I think that the Warriors are going to, at best, win 65 games, in my opinion. But another Warrior record that I think that will never be broken is Klay Thompson's 37 points in one quarter. That was just a phenomenal shooting display. I remember being just awestruck at the fact that he shot the basketball like that. It really is a unique, and he was just rolling. And some of the shots he made were just remarkable. I'll say this: Stephen Curry is the better consistent shooter, but when he's hot, Klay Thompson shoots the basketball better than anybody I've ever seen, including Stephen Curry, when he's hot. So I think that's another mark that will never be broken as far as NBA history is concerned. And I'm trying to think of other records that I don't think will be broken. I think Bill Russell's 11 championships, of course, is a mark that will never be broken. I think 2 records held by John Stockton won't be broken. His steals mark of, I think it's 3,265. They'll never be broken. No one's ever even come close to 3,000 steals. I think the second place guy is Jason Kidd, I believe. And he's like, what? I think it's Jason Kidd. And he's like, maybe, off the top of my head, 600 plus steals behind. But the mark that really won't be broken is John Stockton's 15,806 assists. That will never be broken. Ever. Ever. I think Stockton had a stretch, like a decade-long stretch, where he averaged better than 11 assists per game. It included a peak of something like 14 and a half assists per game. I think it was like the 89-90 season or 90-91 season, one of those two. But, of course, that will not be broken. I think that Dennis Rodman's 7 consecutive rebounding titles will never be broken. I just don't think we'll see a player like him in NBA history dominating the boards to that degree. I mean, we have some terrific rebounders in the NBA now, but I don't see a guy just so head and shoulders above everybody else when it comes to rebounding the basketball. Speaking of rebounding, I think another record that won't be broken is Charles Barkley, who I think is one of the greatest NBA players of all time, whether he won a championship or not. Charles Barkley in 86-87 season became the shortest player ever to lead the league in rebounding. Listed at 6'6", but Barkley was actually more like 6'4.5", and these days he may be, as he's over 50 years old and had carried a lot of weight, maybe even around 6'4" now, possibly even a hair under. But a guy who was actually 6'4.5", averaging, what was it, 14.7 rebounds per game that year, it's incredible. And trying to think off the top of my head, that might be all the records like I'm thinking of at the time. Because there's other records that I'm not certain if they're unbreakable. I'm trying to go through my head if there's any records I'm forgetting. I know there are. Because I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's scoring mark is breakable. I do. I know that this season, most likely, LeBron James is going to surpass Michael Jordan's playoff points mark of 5,987. He's going to most likely, barring injury, surpass that mark. So that's a record that might be soon to be unbreakable in itself, is LeBron James' playoff points mark, which he should set sometime this season, postseason. Speaking of Michael Jordan, I think I'm wondering if I should include his 6 finals MVPs, whether or not that might be a mark that's unbreakable. I don't think it's unbreakable because LeBron has what? 3 finals MVPs? So he would need 3 more Finals MVP. I don't think it's unbreakable, but it's unlikely. So I can't say it's unbreakable, but I do think it's unlikely. Really trying to think here and see if there's anything I'm forgetting as far as records is concerned. Oh yeah. There's one. Andrew Bynum is the youngest player to appear in an NBA game. And I think he was like a couple of days or something past his 18th birthday when he made his NBA debut in 2004. And I think that obviously that's a record that'll never be broken because of the fact that the rules changed where you have to play at least 1 year of college, I think. So that's a record that obviously will never be broken. And as far as on the opposite end of the spectrum, the oldest player to appear in an NBA game was our fellow by, I think his name was something like Nate Hickey or something like that. And I can't remember what team he played for. I can't remember which year it was. I think it was in like the 1940s, like the very earlier seasons of the NBA. He was 46 years old, I believe, when he appeared in an NBA game. I think he was a coach of a team, and he activated himself and played in one NBA game. And he was 46 years old. And I think that's it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm missing some records. I'm missing some marks. I'm missing some milestones. But pretty much that's all I can think of right now as far as NBA records that'll never be broken. Please leave comments of any records you think I've missed, I've left out. Trying to think of marks that I may have forgotten. I don't think that Michael Jordan's 63-point performance in the playoffs is unbreakable for obvious reasons. I mean, the way that the game is played now, I could see that mark being broken, and it's one of the records that I would hate to see broken, by the way. It's unlikely, but it's possible. I do tend to think it's difficult for anybody to break Michael Jordan's record for oldest player to score 50 points in a game. I think that mark used to be held by Karl Malone. I think he was 30. I think it was a playoff game against the Sonics. I think he was 37 at the time. Or 30. No, I think he was 36. But Michael Jordan at age, 38, scored 50 points against, at the time, the Charlotte Hornets, the old Charlotte Hornets, but I guess the team recycled itself, so I guess I don't have to say that anymore. But I remember it was a game in like December of 2001 where Michael Jordan scored 51 points against the Charlotte Hornets as he was a member of the Washington Wizards. And I don't see that record being broken. Most players by that age are completely broken down. Of course, Michael Jordan was the player he once was, but the fact that he was able to score 50 points at that advanced age shows you just how great a player he was. And one other record for MJ that I don't think will be broken is the 8 playoff games of 50 points or more. To score 50 points in a playoff game is phenomenal. To do it twice is sensational. To do it 3 times is legendary. Michael Jordan did it 8 times. Of course, the first time he did it was the 63-point virtuoso performance, the Picasso performance he put on against the soon-to-be NBA champion Boston Celtics on April 20th, 1986. And the last time he did it was April the 29th, I believe it was, 1997, against the then Washington Bullets, soon to become the Washington Wizards, when he scored 55 points. Of course, he did it differently that game. The first game, he was slashing, he was driving, he was dunking. The second game, aside from a couple of dunks and layups, he was doing it with the jump shot and the fadeaway. But Michael Jordan could really get it done in the postseason. And now I'm thinking about it, other records are coming to mind. I think Michael Jordan's record of 30.1 points per game during the regular season won't be broken anytime soon. Now other things are coming up in my head. That won't be broken, the 30.1 points per game. I think his 10 scoring titles, will not be broken ever. For one guy to win the league scoring that many times won't be broken. I think his 33.4 points per game playoff average will never be broken. And then, Allen Iverson is the closest. He was like at 30 points, 0.1 or something like that. And Iverson shot the basketball a lot in the playoffs. And what else am I thinking of? What else do I have to think of? Wilt Chamberlain. Let's go back to Wilt right quick. Wilt's 50.4 points per game average in 1961-62 season will never be broken, ever. Matter of fact, the second highest scoring total is Wilt Chamberlain at 44.8 points per game. The third highest, I believe, is Elgin Baylor, who played in only 48 contests in the 61-62 season. I think he missed some time due to being in the military. And he averaged 38.3 points per game. And no, actually, that's not right. Now that I think about it, Wilt Chamberlain averaged a hair more than that. His second season in the league, he averaged 38.4 points per game. So that's third. Then fourth would be Elgin Baylor with 38.3. Then next would be Wilt Chamberlain, whose rookie scoring average of 37.6 points per game. Then Michael Jordan, his third season, averaged 37.1 points per game. And then I think Wilt had a season averaging 36.9 points per game. As a matter of fact, one time in Wilt's career, his scoring average was as high as 39.5 points per game. But these are some of the records that I think will never, ever be broken. Tell me what you guys think.